Most men think distance means she's losing interest. It doesn't. Sometimes it means you got too close, too available, too emotionally exposed, too predictable. And the reason this confuses you is simple. You were taught that connection grows when you lean in, when you explain more, when you reassure, when you show how much you care. So when her energy shifts, slower replies, less warmth, subtle pullback, you assume you did something wrong. Or worse, that you're about to lose her. That's where most men panic. And that panic is exactly what breaks attraction. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Attraction doesn't fade because of silence. It fades because emotional tension disappears. And emotional tension doesn't come from games. It comes from balance. A woman feels drawn to a man when she feels both safety and uncertainty. Safety in his presence, uncertainty in his emotional availability, not because he's cold, but because he's grounded. When you start reacting to every change in her mood, when you rush to fix silence, when you explain instead of observing, you shift the dynamic. She no longer wonders about you. She starts watching you, and watching is not attraction. This matters because most men don't lose women due to mistakes. They lose them due to emotional overexposure. You start leading with reassurance instead of presence. You try to secure clarity instead of allowing curiosity. And without realizing it, you put pressure on her emotional space. If you stay through this entire video, you'll understand something most men never see. Why pullback is often a response to closeness. Why stillness is more powerful than effort, and why reacting emotionally feels honest, but costs you attraction. Female attraction isn't logical. It's emotional alignment. A woman moves closer when she feels safe, but she stays interested when she feels challenged by your emotional center, not challenged by dominance. Challenged by your composure, when she senses that your emotional state depends on her response, something subtle changes. Her guard doesn't rise in fear, it rises in awareness. She feels responsible for your feelings, and responsibility kills desire. This is where many men misunderstand female psychology. They think consistency means constant availability. It doesn't. Consistency means emotional steadiness. A man who doesn't rush, doesn't chase clarity, doesn't punish silence. A man who stays the same, whether she leans in or pulls back. When you're getting too close too fast, her behavior doesn't turn hostile. It turns cautious. She replies, but without depth. She's present, but less open. She's warm, but guarded. Not because she lost interest, but because the space that allowed interest to grow collapsed. Now, we'll break down the subtle psychological signs that show when a woman is emotionally invested and when that investment starts feeling crowded. For now, sit with this question. Are you responding to her behavior, or are you reacting from fear of losing her? When a woman feels emotionally connected to you, her behavior shifts quietly, not dramatically, not all at once. And most men miss it because they're looking for effort, for excitement, for obvious signs. But emotional investment doesn't show up as intensity. It shows up as alignment. She starts mirroring you without trying. Your pace becomes her pace. Your calm becomes her calm. She doesn't rush you. She doesn't test you constantly. She adjusts. This is one of the first hidden shifts. She's no longer trying to impress you. She's trying to sync with you. Then something else happens. Her guard drops, but only partially. She shares, but she watches. She opens, but she observes how you handle it. Not to judge you, to feel safe with you. Women don't fall for words, they fall for emotional consistency. Another shift shows up in how she speaks about you. She protects your image, not publicly, subtly. She doesn't vent about you. She doesn't frame you as unreliable. She keeps you intact in her inner world. This means she sees you as stable, as someone worth preserving. Then comes a quieter sign. She starts seeking presence over attention. She doesn't need constant messages. She doesn't need reassurance every hour. She just wants to feel you're there. Not texting nonstop, not proving interest, just grounded availability. This is where many men make the mistake. They increase effort when they feel closeness. They fill space that didn't need filling. And when that happens, another shift occurs. She starts respecting silence. Not because she's losing interest, but because silence feels safe around you. Silence only scares people when it feels unstable. When your silence feels calm, it creates curiosity, not distance. She also begins emotionally aligning with you. Your reactions matter more than your opinions. If you stay composed, she settles. If you panic, she withdraws. Not to punish you, but to regain balance. And finally, nurturing behavior appears, not mothering, attunement. She checks in without hovering. She softens without surrendering herself. This is emotional investment. But here's the part most men don't understand. These signs disappear not when attraction fades, but when pressure replaces space. When you start asking for clarity, when you start explaining feelings too early, when you seek reassurance instead of offering stability, the moment she feels she has to manage your emotions, the dynamic flips. She doesn't pull away because she doesn't care. She pulls back because she cares and feels crowded. So now we're going to talk about the men who overgave, who leaned in with good intentions and slowly lost their frame without realizing it. If that feels familiar, don't judge yourself, just listen. Most men who lose attraction didn't do anything wrong. They did too much too soon for the wrong reason. They felt the closeness and thought, this is working. So they leaned in harder, more availability, more explaining, more emotional access. Not because they were weak, but because they wanted to be honest. If that's you, understand this. Your intention wasn't the problem. Your timing was. When you overgave, you weren't leading anymore. You were responding. You started shaping your behavior around her reactions, waiting for replies, reading tone, adjusting energy. That's what losing frame looks like, quietly. And when a man loses frame, a woman feels it immediately. Not consciously, emotionally. She feels that the emotional center has shifted from you to her. That's when attraction gets heavy. You start seeking reassurance instead of offering calm. You ask questions that don't need answers. You explain feelings she hasn't asked about yet. And without meaning to, you make her responsible for your emotional state. That responsibility creates pressure. Pressure creates pullback, not rejection, protection. This is where men misunderstand female behavior. They think pulling back means disinterest. It doesn't. It means she's trying to breathe again. So she slows down. She becomes less expressive. She creates space, not to lose you, but to stabilize herself. And if you chase that space, if you try to close it emotionally, you confirm the very thing she was sensing, that your emotional state depends on her. Attraction needs polarity, not dominance, not control, but emotional independence. A woman feels drawn to a man who enjoys her presence, but doesn't need it to feel grounded. This is why chasing kills attraction, not because it looks desperate, but because it collapses mystery. Stillness, on the other hand, creates curiosity. When you don't react immediately, when you don't explain silence, when you stay consistent without demanding closeness. She starts wondering again, not where did he go, but who is he? Silence, when it comes from self-respect, feels powerful. Not cold, not manipulative, just centered. This is the shift most men never make. They think attraction is built by adding more effort, more words, more availability. But attraction is often preserved by holding your pace, holding your composure, holding your sense of self. Now, we'll talk about what this means for your identity, not how to get her back, but how to stop losing yourself when closeness appears. And that shift changes everything. Sit with this. Were you leaning in from strength or from fear of losing her? At some point, this stops being about her behavior and starts being about who you are when connection appears. Most men focus on winning a woman, keeping her interested, holding her attention. But attraction doesn't deepen when you try to secure it. It deepens when you're no longer trying to be secured by it. This is the identity shift. You stop asking, how do I keep her close? And start asking, am I still myself when closeness arrives? A grounded man doesn't pull away to regain power. He doesn't lean in to avoid loss. He stays where he is. He lets interest rise and fall without reacting. He lets silence exist without filling it. He lets uncertainty breathe. Not because he's detached, but because he's whole. When you reach this place, something changes quietly. You no longer monitor her responses. You notice them without assigning meaning. A slow reply doesn't disturb you. A warm message doesn't inflate you. Your emotional state becomes yours again. That's when attraction stabilizes. A woman feels safe with a man who isn't trying to manage the connection, who isn't chasing certainty, who isn't afraid of space. She senses that being close to you won't cost her freedom, and being distant won't cost you your center. This is quiet power, not dominance, not strategy, not control. It's the absence of emotional need. And here's the part most men don't expect. When you stop trying to hold her attention, she starts giving it freely. Not because you changed tactics, but because you changed orientation. You're no longer facing her for validation. You're standing beside her, grounded in your own direction. That's attractive. This doesn't mean you become cold. It means you become selective. You engage when it feels aligned. You pause when it doesn't. You don't rush intimacy. You allow it. And if she leans back, you don't pursue, you remain. If she leans in, you don't collapse into it, you receive. This balance is rare, and it's felt immediately, not as excitement, but as calm curiosity, as trust, as emotional safety paired with quiet challenge. So here's the question to leave you with. When closeness starts to grow, do you tighten your grip? Or do you stay rooted, letting connection move around you instead of pulling it toward you? Because the moment you stop trying to be chosen is often the moment you finally are. If this helped you to see things more clearly, not emotionally, but honestly, then stay here. This channel isn't about chasing women. It's about understanding yourself, so attraction stops feeling confusing. If something in this video hit close to home, leave a comment. Not for me, for you. Put the awareness into words. And if you're done reacting, done overthinking, done losing your frame when emotions show up, subscribe. Not for motivation, for clarity. Because the more you understand these dynamics, the less power confusion has over you. I'll see you in the next one.